Hello, this is John Costa, and we're here on S24 television, and we're doing another one of our ad hoc episodes that we do for Sahel Watch. It's interesting to think about Sahel Watch from the way it looks out across West Africa and the Sahel region, and we look then internally across Nigeria when it comes to the insecurity, banditry, criminality, and have conversations about equipment and people and membership and body counts, all of the things that you'd have heard me interview people previously on Sahel Watch. But what I felt very important to me, as someone that was a retired soldier from the British military many years ago, was what's the impact of veterans when it comes to having views of conflicts that tend to go on for a lot longer than we thought they probably would do. But then also those that retire with PTSD. But what about those that retire back to society with just memories of service? How does society welcome them back? What does society still do for them? But more importantly, from a Sahel Watch perspective, I want to come in from the point of view of maybe veterans should be part of the planning of the strategies for moving these things forward, because ultimately these are the people that have served there 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago that have this knowledge that is sometimes lost unless they're spoken to, because they're able to shape things. Now, I've been joined by a very good friend. We've only met about an hour ago, but I feel like we've known each other for a very, very long time, and I could never, ever do an introduction, any kind of service, so I'm going to leave it to him. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Costa.
Introduce who you are, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, my name is Awwal Abdullahi Aliyu, a military veteran and a security analyst, civil society activist, a human rights activist as well. And I'm also into politics, that you also need to know, because I was a soldier, the son of a soldier, whose children are in the military, So the military, as far as I'm concerned, is running in my blood, is running in my system. And then that is where I call my home. That is the place I call my constituency. So I'm a proud veteran. I'm into veteran activism, and also worked and still working to better the lives of veterans, to see that military veterans in Nigeria are proud. They work with their head high. They achieve everything that they want to achieve. And I can also tell you that we have professionals within the military veterans. We have doctors, we have professors, we have engineers, we have lawyers, we have architects, we have quantity surveyors, we have everything that you can think of within the military veteran. So it is a proud, if you like, institution where you have all walks of life, you have all profession, you have able hands, intelligent, able hands that are willing, that are ready, that are committed, that are patriotic, that are nationalistic when it comes to the issue of Nigeria. And in any case, whoever sacrifices his life, sacrifices his youthful age, give those to protect the life, property, the territorial integrity of his own country against external aggression, you cannot say more than that. That person has given his all to his country, and that is what I have done. That is what my colleagues have done. That is what my father have done, and that is why I'm proud to always mention and say that I'm a military veteran. Anywhere I find myself and everywhere I go, I say it with commitment, with fulfillment, with happiness. And in the Nigerian Armed Forces, today, tomorrow, and years to come, yesterday and day after yesterday, the most organized, the most disciplined organization today in Nigeria is the military. Highly disciplined, highly professional, highly committed, highly patriotic, and highly nationalistic in both ramifications that you can think of. So I call myself a veteran.
Fantastic. Well, it's wonderful to meet you, and thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me today.
Thank you.
Now, one of the things I think is really important is that I was doing an interview recently with our defence correspondent here, Miss Gloria Atta, and she was talking about her going to the northeast, going to Maiduguri, interviewing soldiers and going on the tour, going to the front line, which is something that I've applied to do. So if my clearance comes through, then then I'll be going to do that, because it's important to go and see these things and report on what's going on. But it's not necessarily the conflict and the war fighting I'm interested in. I'm thinking very much on the impact of the soldiers, so that when you come back and you interview soldiers' wives and families, or you're reporting on the death of a soldier that has an impact on someone, that Nigerian society is, looking after that widow, is looking after the children's welfare and education going forward, because this person has fallen in their service and doesn't have a chance to be retired. So therefore, the role of the veteran, I think, is very much misunderstood in society, as in, they might be, thank you for your service, like they say in the US. I would say in the UK, we're very much, feel a bit uncomfortable if someone thanked you for your service. We're still not comfortable with that, but we're very patriotic when it comes to Remembrance Sunday, or maybe, the King's birthday, those kind of things. We like to see our military there. So from my perspective, when it comes to veterans, do you think that your average Nigerian sees a veteran as someone that's done something positive, or someone that's just done a job? Is it seen as a job, or is it seen as how you view what you did compared to your average person who has no previous military family connections or anything like that?
Well, thank you very much. That is an intelligent question, as well as a very technical question. How the Nigerian citizens view a military veteran who has served meritoriously and retired from the service and has given his best, has given his life, has given his youthful age in order to protect that Nigerian, to allow him to flourish in his business, to sleep with his two eyes closed, to ensure that nothing happens to him. Well, the Nigerian perspective, from my own understanding, like you said, from my own perspective, is you can divide it into 2 or 3 categories. There are the categories of Nigerians who truly see a military veteran as a hero, who deserve a heroic welcome after service back home. There are that category of Nigerians who think a military veteran has done the country proud and he deserves a very good life, he deserves a very good recognition, he deserves a ceremony when after serving meritoriously and retiring. There's another group of Nigerians who also feel, well, it's just part of his job. It's something that he has signed and he has been paid for what he's doing, so there's nothing special about what he did.
Why should he have special
Why
treatment?
should he have any special treatment? He should be treated the way just any other person can be treated. There's that category of Nigerians. And there's the third category of Nigerians who care less about whatever happens. It's just, they don't bother. Their attention is not just there. When they see a soldier, well, this is a soldier, or this is a veteran, and it goes just like that. But the reality is, if we want to ratio Nigerians on a scale of 1 to 10, then I could comfortably say that 1 to 10 scale, and dividing it by 3, then I could see that 4.5% of Nigerians see a veteran as a hero, see a veteran as someone special, see a veteran as someone who has contributed greatly to the development of the country, to the stability, security stability of the country, to the economic stability of the country, to the educational stability of the country, and of course, in overall scale, that the country is what it is in terms of security, because someone has sacrificed his time, his life to make the country look the way it is. 4.5% of Nigerians think that way, and then the remaining 5.5%, you divide that into another 3%. Saying, well, he just did his job, he's employed, they paid him for the work, and then he did his job, so there's nothing special about him. And while the other 2% now are saying are in indifference, those ones, they're less interested in whether he has served, whether he's a hero or not a hero. They don't care. What matters to them is just that they're struggling for their daily bread, they're thinking of how to make ends meet. Now, this is the categorization, as far as I am concerned, of Nigerians, of their thinking, of their psyche, of who a military veteran is, or what contribution he has made, or whether he's a hero or not, or whether he's just any other public or civil servant that is working and being paid salary and he's retired, he's gone back home. This is it. But on a general note, it means greater number of Nigerians appreciate who a veteran is and appreciate the contribution of veterans. And as far as we are concerned as veterans, I think it is something to be happy about, because at least the majority see us as true citizens, as patriotic citizens, as someone who has contributed to national development.
Service.
Exactly, service.
Served, yeah.
We've served the people, we've served the nation, and we are proud to have done such a thing. A lot of Nigerians see us as such, and we feel happy. At least we feel relieved by that. You know that naturally for a veteran to have served between 5 to 35 years, there's one situation or the other that will either make you uncomfortable or will make you, you feel even less important. At a time, you feel like tuning out, like I want to leave because of situations. But that is the nature of human being. And in every situation, one can find himself like that. And then because we are human beings, and I think generally, every veteran, if you ask every veteran, he will tell you that he's proud that he has served his nation. So that is the interesting part of it.
Now, the thing I want to talk to you specifically about, there's two things really. One is the role of veterans in helping to shape any narrative or strategy that comes for ending insurgency. There's a support, naturally, you're patriotic, you're going to support anybody that's going to go off and do that, maybe what you've done as well, but also the fact that you've seen it done well, and you've also seen things that have not worked, that if it was done differently might have had a different outcome and maybe ended something sooner. So there's that I want to touch on. But also, for me, it's about, the president recently announced that they're raising 4 new divisions of X amount of young men. But at some point, those young men, those that don't fall in the service of their nation and are able to complete 5 to 35 years, will come out and become veterans. And so really, even if they've not joined yet and they're going to be part of these 4 divisions, ultimately, what you're doing with your colleagues now and putting in place and meetings and committees and ensuring there's government policy that support veterans is really important. So what are you involved in at the moment? You mentioned a retreat to me, so tell me a little bit about what this one-day retreat was about, because I think people watching this will then see that if you're advocating for veterans' rights, we're not just talking about you, we're talking about these young men that are yet to sign up and join in these 4 new divisions. So it has a real kind of standing on the shoulder of giants like your father, your service. How can we then help the son or daughter of a Nigerian watching this that suddenly thinks, well, actually what you're doing is helping them in 20, 35, 40 years' time. So therefore, I'm changing my views on what veterans are.
Thank you very much for that question once again. You see, in Nigeria today, we have a set of leadership of the Nigerian Armed Forces and, of course, the Ministry of Defense that are highly committed, that are also patriotic to the nation, to the country, to the government, on their appointment responsibility assigned to them by the President and Commander-in-Chief. Yes, just recently, the President and Commander-in-Chief increased the salary of a serving soldiers by 80%, 50%, and 30%, depending on the rank categorization, which impliedly means veterans also will now have a higher take-home pay as pension at the end of every month. And the president has directed that that come to pay by September 1st, which is just around the corner. So you see, that is one aspect that of welfare that the government is looking at. But now, the one-day retreat, like you rightly ask, this is a retreat that is set up by the Defense Headquarters under the able leadership of the Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria, General Olufemi Oluyide, whom I know very well is very passionate about the armed forces, also very passionate about the military veterans. In his words, he said he has reached the peak of his career as being a 4-star general and the number one military man in Nigeria, that is the office of the Chief of Defense Staff. He has gotten to the peak of his career, and then he is proud to have gotten that God took him to that very position, according to what he has said in several forums, and that he is looking at what will he do on leaving office
when he becomes a veteran.
When he becomes a veteran, that he will be remembered for, to say that it was during his time that so XYZ was done to better the life of veterans. Now, hence the reason for coming up with that one-day retreat. The retreat was about challenges that the veterans are facing, all all sorts of challenges. Veterans have this complaint, or they have that complaint, they have this challenge, or they have that challenge. And he decided to say, okay, come, call the veteran leadership, call stakeholders, sit down for a one day, come and discuss what the problem is. Tell us the problems. And he's sending a high-level delegation of very senior military officers, the branch chiefs. About 8 two-star generals were there to listen to the cries and complaints of veterans. And then a whole lot was discussed. And immediately after the issue of welfare, more majorly health, education, take-home pay in the sense of pension increase, and a lot of other things that was discussed during the one-day retreat. And that compilation was made, he received, and the delegate took that back to him. Again, magnanimously, he now decided to say, okay, we have received this, we've seen that a lot of complaints, okay, let us set up a committee to look at those complaints with a view of finding a lasting solution to these complaints. And then hence again, setting up of another, I think 20 or 21 man committee to look at it, and for 21 days to look at that challenges with a view of finding a lasting solution. So a whole lot was done. First, they reviewed the pension take-home pay of military veterans was critically analyzed, looked at, and compared with other countries, the Americas, the Britain, Afghanistan, Egypt, Ghana, some African countries. There's a comparison of their take-home pay with what the Nigerian military veteran is taking home, and then coming up with a certain recommendation of what the committee think is the best way to go. That is number one. That is on the take-home monthly pension. Second, the issue of health challenges of military veterans after serving between 5 to 35 years. Naturally, with age, a lot of ailments are there, and we have the Defense Health Insurance Scheme, but also looking at it, inviting the officials to come and sit and look at it to discuss the problems and find what the law says and what can be improved upon to have a better healthcare facility for veterans. That was also part of the recommendation. Then the issue of education of children of veterans and deceased veterans, that is widows also now, scholarship and what have you, that was critically looked at and also analyzed and part of the recommendation. Then come the issue of housing, for military veterans. Also, it was looked into, analyzed, and recommendations were made. Skills acquisition for children of deceased veterans, and widows, so that they can stand on their feet even in the absence of their breadwinner, that is their loved ones. Those ones were also critically looked at, and high-level recommendations were made. I can tell you that holistically, the whole life of Nigerian military veterans were looked at by that committee, and then high-level recommendation was made. And before the setting of that committee, we also knew that the Chief of Defense Staff, in collaboration with the Ministry of Defense, that is the Minister of State Defense, Dr. Bello Mohammed Matawale, who is the minister directly in charge of veteran affairs in the Ministry of Defense, and of course also the main Minister of Defense, that is General Christopher Musa. Gwabi Musa is the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria, and now the Minister of Defense, and a retired general. He is also now a veteran. Look holistically, the Chief of Defense Staff said they are putting heads together. As this recommendation is coming to them, they are heading to the President, submitting the recommendation as it is made by the committee for the President to look at and approve. I think if you leave me, I would say that the Nigerian veterans, to be precise, had never had it better than we are having it now, because you have a leadership of the armed forces and the Ministry of Defense that listen to the cries, that listen to the complaint of the military veterans with a view of finding a solution to whatever complaint, cry, or problems that has been envisaged or have been presented. That is how it is going. And also know that the Minister of State Defense Bello Motowale, also set up a 5-man committee. That committee's responsibility is to interface between veterans and the office of the minister, who is the supervising minister of veterans, to discuss and interface
to keep those conversations
exactly,
going,
to keep the conversation going on, to keep the narrative going on. Where veterans have problem, the responsibility of the committee is to come up with whatever problem and challenges and relate to the office of the Honorable Minister of State Defense. And then while that, the one that he can handle, he can. The one that he alone cannot, he discuss with the main minister and of course the Chief of Defense Staff to put heads together or finding solution. Where the three of them cannot solve it, they head to the president for intervention. And also, the main Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, also set up another committee, another independent committee, also that is looking into the problems of veterans, with the view of finding a lasting solution to it. So you see, you have the armed forces, let me say, from the Ministry of Defense to the Defense Headquarters, you have leaders that are appointed that cared so much about the problems of veterans, and also are also looking forward to ensuring that whatever challenge the veterans are having is being enumerated, it is being solved, and swiftly at that. So honestly, you like I said, the veterans never had it better, because you have listening leaders. Where you have leaders that don't listen, that is where you have problem, because there is no communication, there is no information flow, there is no discussion. But here you have various committees being set up, discussions ongoing, veterans being involved in all these committees and discussions, and they are being listened to, and their recommendations is being taken seriously and is being presented to the highest authority of the land for implementation. So this is what is happening between the Office of the Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria, the Office of Minister of State for Defense, and the Office of Minister of Defense Nigeria, and collaborating all together in trying to find a lasting solution. And that is why I said veterans in Nigeria today are having it better than any other period of their life, because just like we rightly started to say it about 10 days ago, thereabout, the president increased again the salary of armed forces, which is going to affect the veterans by 80, 50, and 30%. Before now, he has done another increase for members of the serving military personnel from certain amount to certain amount, which also reflect in the pension of veterans.
So as you said, really, what we're getting to the point now is where veterans have never really had it this good, because it's more about, it's not just the increase in pension, but it's access to healthcare, who's getting looked after, and also someone who's about to leave the military, or someone who's about to join
the military,
these four divisions, are able to see evidence of something that you're able to do for veterans, because at some point they will become veterans. So let me pick up on my last point to finish our conversation. You've got retired members of Nigerian Armed Forces, logo on your hat, and your and you've got underneath it retired but not tired.
Exactly.
Which I think you've ably demonstrated in the last 20 odd minutes. So for me, I think it very much that, as someone who's a veteran, but a journalist, and someone who does heritage and has an independent museum for conflict memory education centre and a Hadari archive, means dark cloud in Hausa, where we're talking making films, documentary series about the Biafran conflict and stuff, the impact on people on both sides, civilians and people involved in the fighting, that I could set up with you a veterans interview program. So for the first time, we're capturing the stories of private soldiers through to retired generals, that captures their experiences and what they did, where they were at that particular time. So on maps you can start putting a pin in about who was there and that. But I also think that, for me, that's come out of our conversation before this interview and now, is the fact that the role of the veteran is never really considered when it comes to finding solutions to conflicts. Now, I look at the conflict and how long it's been going on in the northeast with Boko Haram, and you've had private military companies involved before. It's kind of where you roll through and serve that I very much see how the British Army used to do with Northern Ireland, Operation Banner for those 20 odd years. And it was somewhere that people served, and it's something they did, and so a lot of veterans will be able to coalesce around that one particular part of that country, maybe one particular type of enemy. But with what Nigeria's experienced at the moment with criminality, banditry, insurgency, Islamic fundamentalism, you know, people's different ideologies and stuff, that with such a porous border and kind of fragmented ways of coming at it. You know, there's a lot of, I think I did a previous interview where, you know, someone said to me, can force alone solve this this issue? And I was like, well, sending the army into, you know, with an iron fist to try and solve everything is not really taking into account the best skills of the person that you're sending. Sometimes it's a tribal leader, sometimes it could be civil society, sometimes it could be a politician, and other times you need an iron fist. So how do we go around including veterans in conversations, in dialogue, in communities, you know, capturing their experiences that we then put in an archive for their service, something to be proud of, but actually start to analyse some of that, which is, why did we stop using that unit? Why were we successful for this period of time, but we're still fighting in that way, in that area 15 years later? What tactic changed? Was it a change of leadership? Was it a change of political impetus? Was it our equipment? So how do we go about ensuring veterans are at the table that are talking about ending the insurgency and ending the conflict in the Northeast? Because ultimately we could save the life of one or two or 20 or 40 or 400 of these young men joining these new 4 divisions by actually drawing on the knowledge that veterans have of these experiences.
Thank you very much. That is also a very good one. Presently, the Minister of Defense, you recall in one of his interviews, spoke about the ungoverned spaces. And because of that, he also initiated a program of engaging military veterans, not really reabsorbing them back into the fold of the armed forces to wear uniform to go and face the insurgents, but to making use of the military veterans in information dissemination and intelligence gathering. And you know, successful wars are only usually being achieved through information dissemination and credible, timely intelligence.
Every war.
Yeah. Credible, timely intelligence and information dissemination. Now, on that basis, the Minister of Defense initiated the issue of reabsorbing retired members of the armed forces back to the fold, not to wear uniform and take guns, but to work towards intelligence gathering, information dissemination, communication, and stuff like that. And also the Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluide, equally had a similar program at the Defense Headquarters of re-engaging the retired members of the Nigerian Armed Forces in intelligence gathering and information dissemination. So you see, there is interwovenness of the Defense Headquarters and the Ministry of Defense when it comes to the issue of intelligence, when it comes to the issue of re-engaging veterans for intelligence and information. Also, about a month or 2 months ago, the Chief of Defense Staff also inaugurated a special training by a conflict resolution institution on conflict resolution, peace building, and intelligence gathering. He sponsored that training for 4 days in Defense Command Mess 1 Asokoro, Abuja, where he came personally to declare the training open. Like I said, he sponsored, and he was there personally to declare the training open, where 120 military veterans were trained for 4 days on, like I said, peace building, intelligence gathering, conflict resolution. This he has done. He has also promised to ensure that he reach out for that to take place across the Federation. Also, that similar training has taken place in Kano for another 120 military armed forces veterans on the same conflict resolution, peace building, and intelligence gathering. After that, there's another training that also was held in Kogi State. Another one is about to be held in Zamfara State, and like that. So the training is going around, all in the name of involving veterans in information dissemination, conflict resolution, and intelligence gathering. So the Defense Headquarters and the Ministry of Defense, like I speak to you right now, are already having that thinking of involving veterans, because it is only when you involve the veteran, he has served the armed forces, he has had the knowledge, he has had the experience, now he has retired back to the community, he has mixed up with the community, he knows the role the armed forces are playing, he knows the problem and the conflict at the community level, and now you are bringing him back to tap from the knowledge that he has gotten from the community level, and then putting up back the knowledge he has had as a serving military personnel before retiring, to put together and work towards finding a lasting solution to the security challenges of in the country. So this is what the Ministry of Defense and Defense Headquarters are already doing under the able leadership of these three leaders: the Minister of Defense, General Christopher Gwami Musa, the Minister of State Defense, Dr. Bello Mohamed Matawale, and of course the Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluide. This is what is going on as I speak to you. So it is no longer, the armed forces itself realizes that it's not just about kinetic approach alone that can solve the problem. They realize that you also need the non-kinetic approach, combination of the stick and carrot approach, in order to find a lasting solution to the security challenges that we are having. Okay, for example, you have the Boko Haram. It has been there in existence for about 20 years. And you still have them, even though by the special grace of God.
How many veterans have gone through that space?
Veterans have gone through that space. They have had that experience, and then coming out from that, mixing up with the community, and now asking them to come back and provide that experience with that of the community experience in order to find a lasting solution. Which simply means is telling those that are within the service now and those that are willing to join the armed forces that the armed forces cared for its personnel even after retirement, and the armed forces does not forget the retired personnel just because they have served and left. The serving also still remember the retired personnel and are involving them in issues that are security inclined, which means a new thinking, a new approach of the leadership of the armed forces towards finding a lasting solution to the security problem that we are having now. I think the country never had it better than we are having it now. And also in selecting this leadership, I think we need to commend the President and Commander-in-Chief Bola Tinubu for having the psyche. Only God knows what whether it is in a dream that he has dreamt that he needed this kind of people to come together to work. And they are working in synergy, they are working in cooperation, they are working in understanding, they are working as brothers, they are working for the country, for the country to be better. So like I said, I don't think we've had it better than this, most especially the veterans. The veterans, there are a lot of goodies, a lot of good things that are coming, most especially under this committee that was set up, that the report is about to be submitted. The whole life, it is a holistic approach to the challenges of veterans with the view of finding a lasting solution. And that committee have done justice to those complaints and all to those issues that are disturbing veterans, and is submitting that report to the Chief of Defense Staff and collectively to the President and Commander-in-Chief.
Well, I think it's great to hear something positive about veterans and something that's being done to support them, but also, like I said, putting in place something that in 30, 40 years' time, when the young men come through, it's really good. So thank you for taking the time to speak to me.
Thank you for having me.
My name's been John Costa, here on S24 television. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode of Sahel Watch. Please go through to all of our social media channels, including YouTube, for previous episodes that we've done. And we look forward to bringing you some more over the coming weeks. Thank you very much.